So I'm going to take this completely generic poster from Freepik and I'm going to try and completely revamp and redesign it. Oh, and all from my laptop sat right here on my sofa. Also, might I add, no mouse. So here's the design we're working with today. And like I said, I downloaded this from Freepik and it's a poster for an EDM or electronic dance music festival. So let's quickly identify some weaknesses on this design. Now, I think the typography is too cluttered and too disorganized, and there isn't really much of a focal point here, is there? The design doesn't scream rave or dance music festival to me personally, and I've been to a fair few raves back in the day. But what would you change on this design? I do like the border effect, that's pretty neat, but yeah, I'm going to completely revamp and redesign this thing. And so I guess the best way to start would be to, well, delete completely everything. We're bringing things back to a raw, blank canvas. Now, I've already saved this file separately, so I can just grab all the text content from it and refer back to it as we go. Anyway, let's just remove that layer and we're ready to go. So let me just save this and we'll cut back to the OG document uploaded for reference. There. So I'm actually going to be working between Illustrator and Photoshop for this one. And I've got something pretty neat planned when using Illustrator for this workflow, and you'll soon see later what that is. If it works or not, I don't know yet, but hey. I want to start that effect and I want to encapsulate some of the key information into this section right here. Sorry if the lime green hurts your eyes a bit, it will become clear soon enough. Ooh, nice little typo there, and not sure if you're like me, but when you start designing something for the first time on any given day, you kind of feel a bit rusty in the fingers. Sort of like how people need to warm up before they work out or weight train. Hey, I'm just basically making excuses here. Anyway, typo corrected. So, to give the design an EDM or modern dance music vibe, let's rock with NCS insert word I can't pronounce. But I do love this typeface and I think it's going to fit perfectly on this design. Now, I'm not going to add the DJ initials after her name. I think it's implied and people would know who she is anyway. If anything, the DJ should be before her name. Anyway, for this design, I want the overall style to really get people's attention, to get them excited in a sense. The original design is super generic, it's lackluster, and in my opinion, it just doesn't work. Let's slap in that one night non-stop EDM festival text. And for this, I will contrast it slightly using something like aileron here. Now, I'm curious to know if anybody watching this has actually been to dance music festivals, because I've been to quite a few, and for me the most memorable one was probably back in 2006, which was Global Gathering. So yeah, I do have some background knowledge coming into this design workflow and some knowledge of the rave or dance music scene, even if it is a bit outdated at this point. So yeah, hopefully you'll soon see how my design concept triumphs this thing right here. But looking here, this type really does need some TLC. And yeah, that's looking better. There was one bit of text I'm going to add next to that, and that's the starts at midnight caption. And all good raves and club events do start late, FYI. Just quickly, and dare I say carelessly, let's outline this text and cut it into the shape below. Now we can add that live DJ set icon. And for this, I'm just going to have a very standard text, all the same size. I could align it centrally, but hey, let's just roll with this for now. So this time, and what I should have done before, let's not outline the text, and instead, let's use the compound shape function by holding down the command or the control key in the Pathfinder. And this leaves, of course, the text editable. Okay, cool. Let's blast everything into lime green. And let's move it off to one side. This graphic will probably be set onto a darker color anyway, and so it's going to be more visible when everything is said and done. Now I think, just for a bit of variety, we're going to make the live DJ set icon white. I mean, why not? I'm coming into this design not really doing research and so on, as I normally would for a project. I'm just designing on the fly with having a bit of insight into this kind of person who would adhere to this design in the first place. But hey, I think I can nail it. So now we're going to move on to the main focal point of this design, and for this effect, I need to show you some really cool inspiration. So if we come over to this YouTube channel, Panther, they make some seriously neat designs in Illustrator, Photoshop, and other programs too. So yeah, do consider giving them a subscribe because it is worth it. I mean, just take a look at some of these designs. Really, really awesome. But this one in particular caught my eye, and I think the Adobe Illustrator 3D effect can be utilized for my focal point on this design, but in a very specific way. So let's go back to AI, and I'm going to group this graphic here and then drop it into the 3D materials panel. Whoops. Yeah, I forgot to do that. No worries. So I intend to place the graphic we've just made on top of the 3D shape. But what kind of shape? What are we going to go for here? If we look back at the OG design a second, the event is called Electra, which begins with an E, and this is an EDM music festival. Also, the letter E does have some connotations with raves and ravers. If you know, you know. So I want to make the juiciest and the coolest looking E shape for my focal point. I'm thinking purple and lime green is a good color scheme. And for the E, we can start by just creating a simple pen tool path. Now, I don't need to be neat here because we can edit things as we go later into the process. I'm just trying to get a very generic capital E line, and we'll take things from there. So jack up the old stroke weight somewhat and then round off the corner and also the cap and the stroke window. So yeah, I do know this looks pretty ridiculous at the moment, but bear with me, I do have plans for this. So this is when we can add 3D effects, or begin to add them for that matter. So in the 3D effects panel, let's go for the inflate effect found right here. That looks pretty lame, I know. But before we get detailed, I just want to play around with the shape a tiny bit. I'm sure I'm going to modify this a ton as we move through the design process. But for now, let's increase the depth a tiny bit, just to make it extra plushy. For the real decent effects to be noticed, we need to activate ray tracing. And yes, it might slow things down a tiny bit. But I'm confident in my MacBook, don't worry. Okay, so that is instantly looking a tad more realistic. For the graphic to overlay properly, lowering the volume here might be wise. Again, a bit more depth, maybe. That's looking pretty sweet. Now, for some lighting. I want to originate it from the top left, so let's see how this pans out. A touch of softness too, maybe? We can still adjust the stroke path as well, as you can see. And yeah, look, my MacBook does take a couple of seconds to render stuff in, but it's cool. So I'm going to jump cut to when this E is finished because I might be here for a while. But before that, a quick word from a tool that can turn SVG files into animations really fast. So if you work with logo designs like myself, or any SVG files for that matter, you might want to bring them to life, and we can do that very easily indeed with my go-to, which is SVJator. Let me tell you that being able to add animated versions of a client's logo really elevates the pitch of the presentation when it comes to delivering your concepts. But that doesn't just apply to logos, it's any kind of vector presentation. So I've opened up my logo symbol here, and I just want to add a simple yet a crisp animation. So let's first animate the white central section, and as you will see, SVJator has identified each vector shape instantly. I'm going to click Animate and then add a scale animation. I will make this specific part of the animation 2 seconds, and I'm going to set the starting scale to 0 and then bring it up to 1. That's looking fine, but we want to make it more interesting. So we can add a bunch of ease effects right here, and for this first animation I'm going to opt for ease in cubic. Okay, cool, so let's animate the blue shield part of the logo. For this, I want to add a position animation, and I want to make it enter from the left onto the screen. We can hold down Shift when moving objects so they stay locked on a vertical or horizontal plane. And for this animation, I want to use the Expo Ease In. But I'm modifying the ease effects right here, which is pretty easy to do. We can adjust these and change up the starting point and ending point of the animation. And I want the white section to come in second. Also, like I did with the other part, I'm going to nudge the blue shield a little over to the right and then pop it back to position just after. And this adds an extra depth of movement to the logo design itself. When it comes to exporting, we have lots of options open to us, including video, GIF, and much more, as you can see. So let's export this animation as a video file. So you have your frame rate settings and also the quality setting here, and I'm going to crank it right up to the max. So yeah, if you want to animate your logo files or other SVG files really quick and easy, check out SVJator linked in the description box below. And here we have it, a very abstract E. And we have a lot of surface area to work with, and that is to overlay the graphics. But look here, I'm really loving this 3D lighting at the top. I think we can do some great things with this on the poster design. To add the graphic, we just simply head into the graphics section and just click once. See, look, I'm loving this lime green on purple effect. I'm not sure about you, but I think it just really works well. So yeah, every alteration or movement requires a quick render load. How long that takes will depend on your computer and how complex your design is. At this stage, I'm not sure how large I want it, and we also have one more bit to slap onto the E below. But that's looking pretty neat. So the other info relates to the remaining 2 DJs, so let's grab the first name just so I don't make any more of those typos. we're going to make another graphic like we did for the first section. But for this one, I'm feeling a white label of sorts. Now, if I recall, this DJ was a dubstep DJ. Personally, I'm not too keen on dubstep. I'm more of a jungle or late 90s drum and bass person. But hey, everyone's got their own taste, right? So copy this over for the next DJ, but I'm going to align this one to the right. This one has 3 lines of text with a name, but that's not going to be an issue. And Mark is a glitch DJ. So I'm thinking of having this one down along here on the E. Just going to make a very simple white rectangle and overlay the text on there. Very simple, very straightforward. I just don't want to make the information any more complicated than it already is. I've never memorized the bring to front shortcut for some reason. It's really strange. So we go for the top left and the bottom right for the layout on this label, and it should just work fine. Give this a wee little nudge and we're done. Now, just to group it and drop it into the graphics panel. Wow, see, this looks pretty cool, but of course it's totally useless as information. Again, it's just a case of moving, resizing, and adjusting. And I don't think my MacBook is that slow, to be honest, considering it's not an actual desktop computer. But you know what? Just to save you guys torment, I'm going to jump cut once more to when the placement is actually finalized. So see you soon. Let's bring the finished 3D graphic into Photoshop and see how things look. Okay, stupid me, I forgot the document is CMYK. I know the poster will be printed if it was, intended for its use. But just for today's video, let's work with that saturated, juicy RGB. I guess I have to bring it back in again. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for right there. And yes, I know the white label isn't aligned with the graphic above. That was in fact intentional. Okay, so now what? I'm liking this lime green and I think it should make up a big part of the finished design. It's a poster that will be on the street, so it should stand out, right? Vibrant neon colors are also linked to the rave scene, so it does make sense. But for the bottom layer, I will contrast it with jet black. Now we can bring on that lime green. Now I want the E shape to bleed over the rectangle a tiny bit, and that's just to give some intrigue and make it more obvious. You'd be surprised at how efficient I've actually become without a mouse and just using the laptop touchpad. But of course I still prefer using a mouse. So just want to quickly make sure the rectangle has equal distance either side, and then we can finish off the design. Yeah, I could have just aligned both rectangles, I guess, but hey ho. I don't think we need the guides, so yeah, bye bye to the guides. And I'm going to add some of the key information at the bottom. And to create a section for that, I can add a thin lime green bar to cut out a nice section for the typography. The name of the festival is obviously one of the main aspects of this design, and I feel this font of Archivo and the contrast of lime green and white works really well. I'm probably going to change the layout of this countless times over though, so for now this is just looking alright. Next, the info at the bottom, which is the Live at Venice Beach and the Special Evening Event section. There is some small text below that, but that's just info about the PSD template, so obviously I don't need that on my design. I'm feeling Special Evening should go on a rectangle of its own just for contrast and hierarchy's sake. And we're swinging back to aileron for this. Black on white will heighten that contrast and emphasis as well. Finally, Live at Venice Beach, which I believe is in California, US of A. Why not switch the at word up for the symbol? It looks pretty cool. Also, my kerning senses are tingling. I absolutely must just jump in here. Now, this might look almost finished, but I have some things in mind actually for this design. But what would you perhaps change or add from here onwards? But okay, wait, before that, I did miss the caption above the title. Probably not really that necessary. But we are designers and we have to add the copy the client wants, right? So I think for this caption, we can accent or contrast the title with the aileron. Club Event of the Year is a pretty bold statement. No pun intended. Now, I'm not sure if we should have it above the festival name like this, or perhaps move it down below. Like I said, this layout is probably going to change before the design is finished anyway. So I'm going to jump cut to when the layout is almost or pretty much finalized. So see you in the not too distant future. And as you can see, I've added a few motifs that just jazz up the design a little bit. My lime green rectangle has done a Houdini and disappeared somewhere, so let's add that back in. But also, if you've gotten this far in the video, cheers for sticking around for this process. If you're enjoying the video, then just give it a thumbs up so I can make more of these in the future. See, I really think the slim rectangle down here helps a whole lot for this design. The design sort of feels kind of naked without it, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not really too sure about this annoying little caption. Where do you personally prefer it, below or above the main title? It looks pretty decent below, but also above. Arguments could be made for both, I guess. I'll just leave it here for now. So at this stage of the design, I like to consider lighting, but also layer blend modes. Sometimes you might feel like a design is finished, but without exploring blend modes, you could potentially miss out on a really cool effect. However, there is always the danger of over-designing and just doing too much, which is why you should save a copy before moving on. But looking back at the original and then back to this, I do feel like this design is way more functional and more in line with the rave culture. But let's have some fun with blend modes on this E, and let's see where it takes us. See, linear burn has a pretty neat look to it. The poster is now more two-tone with that option, however. Subtract looks pretty cool too. It reminds me of a sort of X-ray scanner you see at the airport. But yeah, let's see if we can do something with the subtract effect. Again, it's quite two-tone, and the poster now has a very different feel to it. It's more of an urban kind of street feel poster now, if that makes sense. I'm really liking how much the white label at the bottom of here now pops. So let's duplicate the layer and revert one back to normal blend mode. Again, I'm just experimenting on the fly here to see what kind of effects we can achieve. Yeah, not too sure about that one. Maybe, however, if we cut out the bottom right of the E, things might look a bit decent. Interesting, but what do you think? Better with or better without? Like I said, this is where the designer can spend or waste a lot of time just playing around with things, but this isn't a timed client contract, so we're good. I have been designing for around 45 minutes at this point, and that is with a few mini breaks as well. I'm getting that thing though where you've looked at a design for too long, and it's probably wise to step away and come back again at this point. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to leave the screen for a bit and then come back with the final design, so see you guys soon. And here's the final design. The layout of the festival name at the top has been changed, as you can see, and we now have a central alignment, and also the caption is different above. I decided to go against blend modes. As cool as they were, I wanted the design to be, simple as possible. Set against the original, I do feel like this would catch way more attention and appeal to the rave scene or the dance music culture more so than the original. But do let me know with a comment down below, and also if you want to see more videos just like this one. But if you want to learn some design techniques that can boost your skill level, just click that video on screen. But until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.